Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right. I did not have a prepared voice for that one.
Neither did I. I just winged it.
Yeah, I was going to say my Rufio or my Lost Boys impression is not up to snuff, so I didn't even want to attempt it. But David, of course, being the David that he is, went right into it. I'm Reese. Across from me we have
David.
To his left.
Irina.
To my right.
They called me Hook.
Also known as
Noah.
And a lawyer, but not that kind of lawyer we have.
AJ.
And of course the movie we're referencing is Hook, a movie that came out in 1991, directed by... Is this our first Spielberg?
I think so.
If so, that's crazy. I'm surprised we have not covered a Spielberg. But yeah, Steven Spielberg, who has also directed Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Indiana Jones quadrilogy, E.T., Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, War of the Worlds, Lincoln, Tintin, Bridge of Spies, Ready Player One, and the upcoming West Side Story. That's not even all the movies he's directed.
Yeah.
These are just like big milestone movies, so I'm like just...
Could you like go through all the other ones?
Oh yeah, 1941, Duel, The Terminal.
I thought you were gonna say Terminator.
American
I was
Tail.
like, what?
Yeah, there's a few others. I'm Amistad.
Wait,
or
American
Amistad.
Tail?
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh. I
Didn't he
know that.
do Land Before Time, or was he involved?
He was
with
involved.
that? Yeah.
I think Amblin was involved.
Yeah.
He was also involved.
They were
with
involved.
It was involved.
What about like his indie projects or the ones that he did before he
Well,
became famous?
that would be like Duel and I think 1941. Those were like
okay.
lower budgeted movies.
Yeah, and the mouse that did no wrong.
Yes, that. And he's just had his hand in a lot of other big pop culture-y, iconic movies like Gremlins, Poltergeist,
I heard his son directed Jaws 19.
Jaws 19.
Yeah.
There's not a Jaws 19.
Oh, sorry. Was
Was
that-
that a
an improv attempt?
It wasn't. It was a reference to Back to the Future that nobody caught. That was a fastball that
The thing is, I
went right
haven't
over you
seen
guys.
any of the sequels. I've only seen the first Back to the Future.
I believe it's in the first one.
What?
Yes.
Now you look like a fool.
They don't go to the future
Oh,
in that
wait,
one.
you're right.
Ooh, egg on your face.
Egg on my face. It was the second one. My bad. Because the third one's when they go to the Wild West.
Yeah. The movie stars Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts, Bob Hoskins, Maggie Smith, Charlie Korsmo, and Dante Bosco. We got a screenplay by Jim V. Hart and Malia Scotch Marmo. And this is based on, or it's not really based on Peter and Wendy, but it's a spiritual sequel to Peter and Wendy, a 1911 book by J.M. Barrie, which I'm going to hedge a bet that none of us have read that book.
I read a lot of the synopsis, but I haven't actually read the book itself.
Yeah, but we all know the classic
Yeah.
Peter Pan story, Peter and Wendy, probably mostly
Wait,
because of
how does
Disney.
it go?
It's had a lot of iterations where, like, it was a book, and then they turned it into a musical, like, maybe 10 years after that or something.
Yeah,
And so...
very well-known story, much in the sense that, like, this calls to mind our Tarzan conversation as well. Like, we all know Tarzan, we all know Peter Pan.
There are certain institution classics.
Yeah, it's a property that anyone can use and make tons of bad movies off of.
And they will.
If you were ever a child, you know it.
Have y'all seen that really strange Pan movie
Oh,
with Hugh
the
Jackman?
one with Hugh Jackman? No, I haven't.
No, but I have
Such-
seen Pan's Labyrinth.
It's like a musical, but they use like Nirvana and
Oh, yes, the one, was that the one with the Teen Spirit?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
the fact is
Yeah.
you are thinking of the
Yeah.
right one.
Well, I know it's
You wanted
Nirvana,
to think
but
of the Nirvana song.
yeah,
is what
I was trying to come
really
up with the
concerned
song
about.
because my brain was blanking.
I think I have a soft spot for the 2003 rendition of Peter Pan.
Yeah, that one's supposedly
one
still
is
kinda good.
Really good.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because you guys grew up with that one.
No,
Oh.
that's not necessarily it. I think
Hot
it's just
take,
a very
I don't like it that much.
It's a very well done film, I think.
It is well done,
My
and
personal opinion.
it is well rated, believe it or not.
But also the one that people don't think about when you bring up Peter Pan.
Yeah, unfortunately, they think of Hook.
They do.
No, actually, I think the Disney version comes first, and
I-
then
I
Hook.
think
no,
so,
no,
too.
it
Yeah.
does. It does. But this is up there.
Yeah. Anyway, we're treading water here. For those that are new to the show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, David, had you seen Hook before your prep for this episode?
Have I seen Hook? Yes. This, as my sister would have said, is a family favorite. I don't remember it being a family favorite per se, but the more I watched it, the more I had more memories coming back. Mm-hmm. And I knew pretty much every line in this movie. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but the amount of times I saw it before this was a lot.
Yeah.
And it brings memories of like my dad. He was very similar to Peter Banning in this, where it was kind of like all work, no play, but then trying to find his like childhood spirit, and so it was like that.
I could see
back
that
and forth.
yeah. Having met your dad. Yes.
And there's also a lot of memories. I feel like I just had this realization, the connection between this movie and the stories my dad would come up with. He did bedtime stories a lot, and there was a reoccurring one with pirates and like him and his grandfather walking down a beach and like a fog rolling in, and then him being
so
abducted.
like the fog, with the
But with
evil
pirate
pirates that
shit,
come
yeah.
from the fog.
Yeah, and then they abducted them, but they also like childhood stuff where they were allergic to cottage cheese and stuff like that.
Or weren't they just scared of cottage
They
cheese?
were. Why are you remembering my childhood memory?
Well, because you told me about it.
I did tell you about
Which
it.
is ironic because you love cottage cheese.
I know. I think the point is like I could use something in like this weird fantasy realm like that I like to combat pirates. I'm like, I could eat the cottage cheese.
I could do it. All it needs is a little bit of pepper.
Or a lot of pepper.
Yeah.
So that's my memory with this movie.
All right, Noah.
I don't remember watching it, but I know I did.
So there's little bits and pieces you
Yeah.
recognize.
Yep.
But apart from that, it's like a pretty fresh viewing. Mm-hmm. Irina?
I think I've only seen it on a couple occasions. I was an older child when I saw it for the first time because I think Mom had rented it or something. And I have a vague memory of watching it in the middle of the day on a Saturday or something.
Yep.
The other time was David put it on
I did.
because we were talking about how that was a very nostalgic film for him, so we watched it together. But not a whole lot of memories with this one.
Is this a Christmas movie?
It could be considered that.
Because isn't it Christmas time when they start the movie?
I think
Yes.
it's just the music sounds very Christmas.
No, I think
it
they
does
mentioned
take place in Christmas time.
Yeah.
that it's
They
Christmas.
wish him a Merry Christmas in the beginning.
I do think it released, let me check my notes real quick. Yes, in December.
Oh, a
it's
Christmas
playing
movie.
off of that a little bit. AJ, how about you?
Yeah, I don't really go out of my way to see vampire movies, but
Oh, yeah, Vampire. Yep, of course. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I guess
I-
he does have to be invited in.
it's kind of an iconic poster, I guess. Just kind of all red and, the Lost Boys on the front.
Oh my god.
So the Lost Boys.
Hook. The Lost Boys.
Wait, what's the connection?
The Lost Boys.
Because there's Lost Boys in this. He watched The Lost Boys.
That's so dumb.
That said though, the way
I did
the
see
way,
Blues Traveler live. I mean, does that count?
Sure.
What
sure.
is
AJ.
that?
That said, the way Peter Pan first finds Wendy is kind of vampire-esque. Also, the fact that he never ages and
That's
He
true.
flies,
You know.
creeps through the window.
exactly.
Yeah, the way Hook breaks in, too, is kind of creepy as well.
So-
There's kind of that weird thing about shadows and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually have pretty distinct memories of this. This is one where I would go to my grandparents' house, and my uncle would have this on VHS, and I would
Aw.
put it in, and it was on rotation. But I had to start at the beginning, and then we'd leave before I finished, and then
Aw, man.
it was always a good time when, that iconic scene of, I guess, spoiler alert, the gator falling, the clock tower falling, kind of sticks out in my mind. But seeing it as an older person now has a bit of different perspective.
I think you're kind of in between David and the rest of us, where it's like, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like your enjoyment of this movie is going to hinge on kind of like you had to be there, at that time to really And I'm not trying to invalidate anyone who has seen this movie for the first time now and is older and loves it. I just have a feeling like this is like many of our Robin Williams movies, nostalgia is going to be a player in this episode. I feel like.
I also think that it not necessarily has to do with nostalgia, but the age at which you watch it.
I actually have a different take completely. But
Okay. I would be glad to hear it.
I also want to say regarding Robin Williams and nostalgia, he just embodies nostalgia. So whatever
it is
he's
kinda
in,
true.
whatever
peaked
he's
in
in, it just feels nostalgic because it's him.
Even this movie is almost about nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
that's like you could see it in that year, and it is still trying to. One of the messages is just playing off of these memories, these foggy memories of yesteryear that you just can't quite remember, but that it just kind of brings you back into it. But yeah, I'm the same way as Irina and Noah. This was a movie that was not in the yearly rotation for us. We didn't own it. So I think we might have missed the boat a little bit on Hook.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was intentional. No, it wasn't. But yeah, just a bit late to the party with Hook. Maybe too late to the party. We'll get into it though.
I do think that the naming of it is a little odd, though. Like, why call it Hook?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I have a little bone to pick with that as
because
well.
he has a prosthetic hand that's in the shape of a hook.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, is that why? Oh, I was so confused.
All right. With that said, David, you want to give us that call to action?
Yeah, I think I can muster a little something this week.
Oh, well,
Hook
cool.
us up.
Arr! Ahoy, mateys! To have treasure which we desire, that rare golden 5-star review. We will board your ship and plunder with you. Wait. We will board your ship and plunder, we will. Arr! You dare doubt us? You can see our voyages on Instagram, Twitter,
Why are you
and
Irish
YouTube.
now?
Tell your family and friends. Franchise killer be coming for ye.
Also,
And little did you know, he had rum just before this.
I had a little bit of rum.
I'm also not sure that was a call to action.
I told them that we were going to steal their 5 stars.
Felt more threatening.
Sometimes I
in
threaten.
Hook's nature.
Yeah, you can find us on. I always have to do this just for
clarify.
just to make sure people know. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like us on any platform you listen. But it is particularly helpful if you give us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts. That really boosts the old algorithm. Other than that, you can find us on Patreon as well. And there you go. That's anything helps. But
Tell your friends.
above all, we just appreciate your feedback.
And if we're not quite a 5-star, 4-star is fine.
No, it's not.
No, 5-star or bust.
All right.
Noah, you want to give us that story?
Yeah, baby.
My God, the children. Maggie! The stories are true. He's come back to seek his revenge. Only you can save your children. You must make yourself remember.
Remember what?
Peter, don't you know who you are?
Have to fly. Have to fight. Have to crow. Have to save Maggie. Have to save Jack. Okay, he's back. Who?
Let's fly!
Oh my God, where are we going?
To Never Never Land.
Where? I hate Peter Pan.
Peter, a father and workaholic, has a habit of missing important moments with his family. But this all changes when his kids, Jack and Maggie, are kidnapped by the dreaded Captain Hook. It is revealed that Peter is in fact Peter Pan from all the stories. But he doesn't believe it, until Tinkerbell pays him a visit. She brings him to Neverland, and they find themselves confronting Captain Hook. Peter can't fight, and nor can he fly. He is given 3 days to become Peter Pan. Enter the Lost Boys. They whip him into shape, and he learns to imagine again. But he still cannot fly.
Oh.
What a loser.
Do you want me to frame this, or does someone else want to talk?
I think the best part about this intro is the fact that they start in his Peter Banning, who is also, we find out later, Peter Pan, his daughter's musical that he is watching, and it's actually doing Peter Pan. So you get to see the traditional Peter Pan in the beginning. It's almost as if they're trying to sort of like give a little callback to the original. And if kids don't know what the original is before they see this movie, they get to kind of see it in a way through the lens of this play within a play.
Mm-hmm. It is smart to, make that, if they strangely don't know the story, well, they can just think that it's this play.
Exactly.
I think the bookends of this movie are where it truly shines. Mm-hmm. Which is so weird. The opening...
I think that's just Tinkerbell's glitter.
Okay. but like the first quarter of the movie and then the epilogue or the ending.
It sounds like a second act problem.
Yeah. Those two, and weirdly, there are the moments that are on regular, the everyday Earth area, like not Neverland. They feel more magical and heartfelt to me than when you're actually on Neverland.
That is so interesting that you say that, but go ahead.
Okay, do you have a converse feeling to that, or?
I think it's just mostly from, this movie is kind of separating us into different camps because of the message it's trying to tell. And if you enjoy the bookends, but some of us enjoy the middle part, then that really speaks a lot to the way we're viewing this film.
Yeah, well, that is, for me, like what this movie does so well, well, at least in these parts, it really does play off of the kind of the melancholy feeling of like forgetting this magical past that you used to have and kind of slipping back into or just going day to day, becoming more in the clouds about who you really are. And that the little spark when he starts to rediscover or see that there's this other thing and people keep suggesting this other life that he had, it really plays off of that melancholy, nostalgic feeling. And once he's there, it's cool too to see like his eyes light up again. And there's some really great scenes when he's on Neverland. But what Spielberg does so well is capture that melancholy feeling that is, it's like, oh, this is a time long past, and just seeing Wendy so old is like kind of heartbreaking.
She's not supposed to be old,
and she's like reaching out to him, like, and you think that in my mind I snap immediately to the Disney movie where you see Wendy so old, or so young, and then you're like, no, exactly like you said, you're not supposed to be old. It's so sad. And she's just trying to reach out to Pan or Peter, and it's just it's not working. But to me, that drama works so well in the beginning here.
I think what it does pretty well between their relationship, as far as Peter Pan and Wendy, and where they are now in the quote-unquote real world, is I love the way that she portrays this character as kind of like just knowing so much more than the people around her know, and kind of looking at him very wistfully, but she switches between like kind of the mindset of that young girl she once was, but also this kind of motherly figure to him, And I think she handles that so well in this movie.
It's actually really sad.
I know, it's very sad.
Yeah. So I feel like we've touched on this type of story fairly recently with The Legend of Tarzan, where it's a sequel to a story that you already know, but they don't feel the need to, force feed you that first story.
Because everyone knows
it. Everyone knows it, yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, do you really know it?
The dark
Do you
side
really
of Peter
know the
Pan,
story of Peter Pan?
I think
where he
what
actually
would,
kills the lost boys so they don't grow up.
Exactly.
Gosh, imagine
what
that. And then he goes to the land of the living to get new children.
And it turns out that him going to Neverland is just a construct of his mind.
Wait, isn't that Michael Jackson, the movie?
funny you bring up Michael Jackson.
Yep.
We'll get to that. I do want to say it might be good to sort of explain the difference between this plot concept in the original, because so originally Nick Castle was supposed to okay, clarification here again. Originally Spielberg was going to do this because it was his favorite childhood book, and he had a plan to make this movie. And then his son was born, and he kind of abandoned the project. Then later, Nick Castle, another director, came by and was like, "Hey, I am going to direct this movie." And he was hanging out with his son once, and his son was drawing a picture of the alligator eating Hook. And so he's like, "Oh, so I see you have him eating Hook." He's like, "Yeah, Hook never died." He's like, "Oh, Hook never died?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Also, whatever happened to Peter Pan? Did he ever grow up?" And Nick Castle, I think, described it as like this epiphany moment, where he was like, "Holy shit! Like, what if there was a thing where he gets older and Hook never dies?" And then that's kind of where his writing came into play with this movie.
Nick Castle also directed Last Starfighter, by the way.
Yes.
And that was kind of what
I
helped
remember Last
get him this role
Starfighter.
in Hook. Yep.
Unfortunately, and as we all know, he didn't end up directing this movie, mainly because of creative differences with the production company, and then Spielberg came in, but Nick Castle got a nice, hefty $500,000 bonus to get the F out.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of controversy that maybe Spielberg showed some interest, and the Studio XX were like, "Hey, we kind of want Spielberg to
Getting
do
like that
this. So,
side
hey, Nick Castle, can you get the
Step
F out
down.
of here?"
We will pay you so much money
Yeah.
to leave.
But yeah. But how do you like this kind of reinterpretation or this continuation of the story? Are you kind of wishing it, told more of the elements of the original, or are you glad it takes this pseudo sequel approach?
I actually like it because strangely it's very faithful in some ways to the original story. So there are a lot of Easter eggs here and there for those that know.
Yeah, like when
Besides-
he poses at
yeah.
the window frame, like
Right, well-
arms to the side, arms on his waist.
Well, all the
Right.
shadow play.
Yeah. The shadow play.
But at the same time, it's also a completely different story.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
it's something that hasn't been covered before. Therefore, they are able, as long as the previous story backs it up, they're able to do their own thing with it.
I think it's a healthy balance of maintaining a lot of the original themes, but also kind of updating it to like what happens when he does grow up, or what happens if he were in the real world. So
Yeah.
it's
The sexual tension between Wendy and Peter.
yeah, really,
that was
it's
a
kinda
little weird.
That one moment. But we all know why, though, and maybe as a child. I don't remember picking up on that as a child. Definitely more so as an adult, but
Yeah.
because she had a romantic interest in him a long time ago. For a good bit of time, probably.
yeah.
Apparently,
She also-
everyone has sexual tension between
With Peter.
Yeah, which is really weird because he's the biggest child ever.
But yeah, AJ, how about you? Do you like this kind of the pseudo sequel approach?
I do, and it's obviously catering to more, I guess, adult. I mean, there's more language and that kind of thing, which, in my opinion, is somewhat of a drawback because it's trying to straddle the fence, and obviously children are going to watch this, but then there's some darker themes at play, or at least language-wise. But, and also, I feel like they could have been a little bit more obvious about his amnesia, because I wasn't in the loop right away that he forgot that he was Peter Pan.
Right.
Oh, really?
I didn't. They could have been more clear about, like, they do address it later on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's kind of weird that he was a teenager and he didn't remember
13.
anything before that. Yeah, like 13, 14, whatever.
I think it's almost kind of like they were trying to get across the idea of suppression, kind of like he was trying not to remember, like actively trying not to remember to the point
that's-
where he
Yeah.
forgot, I guess.
That was
yeah,
the
it's
impression
not
I got
clear.
first, but then it's like, no, he literally doesn't remember at all.
Yeah. It's just kind of it's very, yeah, like you said, it's just unclear.
As a childhood, I remember as a child, I always thought it had to do with magic. I always thought it had to do with the fact
Yeah, me
when
too.
you're not in Neverland and you come back here and you allow yourself to grow up, you forget what
Everything
happened.
about
it's like
Neverland.
it's like
I think
it's
that
like
as well.
it's like Narnia.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's
Basically.
exactly.
I think
Yeah.
also throughout this film there are moments where I do believe it's intentional, but there's this kind of like in and out of this what's it
Like
called?
time works differently.
Yeah, time works differently, but also you jump between different realities, or like these characters, you see them kind of go back and forth
Between being a child. And,
yeah, like they're being their old self and then they're the one you're familiar with in
Yeah.
the film. So it's kind of like you can just explain it away as magic, some kind of like magic forgetting or something that happens throughout
Yeah.
the course of the movie. But
All right, so just a quick catch up with the story. Banning is a lawyer. Peter Banning, lawyer. He's missed a important call with his company. Billions of dollars. I don't know. Blah, blah,
Classic.
blah, blah, blah. 20 millions. So he's upset about that. The wife is trying to tell him, like, hey, you're going to miss out on all these years where your kids actually want to spend time with you.
excellent bit.
yes.
I love that scene.
Perfect, like, wife, like, get real speech.
Yeah.
Well, and also the childhood scene where he screams at his children in there.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually like that
Right.
hit home. That was something that
Right.
I forgot about, seeing it as a kid and now seeing it as an adult with, friends and family with like raising kids of their own. That like burst of anger, especially coming from Robin Williams, was like,
Yeah.
holy smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Now I get this movie.
if
Yeah.
there's one thing I can't critique about this movie, it's just like Robin Williams always 100% dialed in
Yeah.
to a performance, and he's spectacular here. And when he does
almost-
show that anger, it doesn't seem like a comedian pretending to be angry.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's a person who's like
Angry.
fed up with his kids. Like,
Right.
get,
And
Get
a
outta
flawed father, like a flawed
Right,
husband
right.
and father. And, he's actually a human, not this imaginary, fictitious boy
Right.
that has truly lost his way.
yeah.
In a sense, he's a lost boy because, it was kind of weird, in my opinion, how at the office he's all, chummy and,
Right.
jovial and stuff and joking
Doing a little
around.
phone
Like, that was
contest,
kind of
seeing
out
who
of
picks up
place.
their
But
phone first.
yeah, but then at home, like his priorities kind of misaligned. And it actually kind of
Right.
calls back to Mrs. Doubtfire for me, where it's got this adult theme. There it was divorce.
Right.
Here it's like fatherhood and
Right.
parenthood. That's kind of actually mixed in on a deeper level.
I would
Right.
say it is one of the main themes of the movie when you actually kind of think about it, because it all kind of revolves around his relationship with his kids.
Yeah.
100% is the main theme of this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not the only main theme.
I-
There's finding the inner, child
Yeah,
in
okay.
yourself, and finding,
Yeah.
living life to the
Right.
fullest is
Work
another.
it.
But that's
Everything.
that's part of the main theme of being with the kids.
They are
Right.
intertwined, yes, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that they could also be separate themes.
I guess
as
we could
well.
say it's a complex theme that we have going on here.
I think another excellent thing about that scene where he just kind of blows up at his kids, like I have dogs, and not that dogs are the same as having kids, but there is that element of kind of this overreaction because you're kind of just fed up, but then realizing that probably wasn't the best approach. I need to calm down. But his character doesn't really have that understanding. He's so engrossed in his work that
Yeah.
he doesn't even see it. But the thing I love about this scene is the way the mother handles this, Moira, is also like you're used to watching films where there's just that stereotypical like, oh, the father blows up, the mom yells at him and then like storms out of the room and slams the door or something. That's just like the traditional scene that is always written. But here she's just kind of like, I love that her character sympathizes with him. She's not impressed by the way he's acting, but it's just kind of like, hey, he needs a little attention, and
Yeah.
just a reality check.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, a little
Right.
ultimatum and throws his phone out.
But it's also brought about by her drastic change just being in the presence of that house brings out the inner child in her.
Right.
So it's kind of almost opens up this empathy for her. And actress is Carolyn Goodall. And, if you missed it in the movie, she's actually Wendy's granddaughter.
Right.
So, but yeah, she was, I wouldn't say an incredibly complex character, but an important character because of that, whole parenthood dynamic.
Right.
So at this point, Wendy is trying to get Peter to kind of get back in touch with who he is. They go to some banquet or something where she's awarded. What was that thing about? Like,
There's
yeah, go ahead.
a hospital being built. So basically, she's this very prominent figure in, adoption, foster care, what have you, because Peter, was put up as orphan. So all this is an event in her honor because they're dedicating this hospital or orphanage, or both. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it's a hospital wing in her honor because of her kind of humanitarian efforts in the adoption front.
Right.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Hook has abducted his children, and they get back. There's a bit of a panic. Some people think this is like the scariest part of the movie, where when Hook is breaking into the house and the kids like sheets are ripped off of them.
Right.
As a kid, I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hook takes the kids. Peter, his wife, and Wendy come back home, realize they're gone. I'll say, like, Peter has this... He is initially panicked, but then he, like, chills out for a while and is just having this kind of casual conversation with Wendy.
Yeah.
And then later on, Tinkerbell does end up arriving and taking him to Neverland.
To get his kids back.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like that the time in between there, he's, like, a little too calm, I'll say.
Well, they had that funny moment with Phil Collins where he tried to tell them that maybe it was just a practical joke.
Sure.
I remember when that line happened, I was like, you do not tell two parents, hey, maybe it's just a prank.
Yeah, especially after like all the walls have been completely scratched by some sort of metal instrument.
It's like, regardless, it's a kidnapping. That's serious.
I can feel Hook coming in the air tonight. Oh no.
All right, we'll leave him in silence for a second.
And I've been waiting for this moment.
Silence him. All right, and this is our first look at Neverland. We have Peter pretending to be a pirate amongst this whole all the other pirates there, where Hook resides. He's kind of trying to make an effort. He's trying to make an effort to get his kids back. What are y'all's initial impressions of Spielberg's interpretation of Neverland?
I enjoy it. I don't know. I have no huge issues with it.
It's hard to take away the nostalgia from my viewing because as a kid, I thought it was super magical. I thought it was amazing. As an adult, you can see it's more of a set.
Yeah.
But it still has such charm.
I don't know why, but I've always loved movies that look like sets for some reason.
Yes.
And I think it goes back to like why I enjoy The Labyrinth or why I enjoy just kind of movies of that era. Part of the reason I love Lord of the Rings so much too is because you can see the set.
The craftsmanship that people put into building the world.
Yeah. Here's where I disagree. But go ahead, AJ.
It kind of goes into the, even in the animated Disney movie, they all kind of seem like they're stationary in time in Neverland. Like they have their own kind of section allotted to them and they just do their routine thing. That's how things are.
Right.
And here we're put into this scene. Everything's kind of all haphazard with the docks and the little pirate town and everything like that.
Right.
And it's just like, it's fun, but it also seems like that's their everyday normal. And it's just kind of like this slice of time that's frozen in Neverland. So I felt like it was immersive in that sense.
Yeah, it did.
I think it's immersive. That said, as far as Neverland goes, I've never seen a take of it in which it actually looks wondrous. Like,
They never quite get there.
Well,
Like
it's very-
I like the land of imagination is
Yeah.
not that imaginative.
Well, this is also children's imagination.
No,
where they're
I'm-
all like,
no,
I
yeah.
love playing pirates, or I love let's have mermaids and let's
Yeah.
have fairies and stuff like that. You know, it's just the mood I get from this is, yes, the production design looks like it's good quality as far as like the ship and everything, but it's sort of just fun in a whimsical way, kind of like you're watching something on stage,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
the original was
but
on
that's-
stage, but
That's kind of not the it's actually not a criticism towards
Right.
this movie, but more a wistfulness for seeing a Peter Pan with a
Right.
wondrous world instead of just seeing kind of the same thing
Got
each
it.
Peter Pan.
I'm gonna say I hate how stationary everything is. I hate that they're on this ship that never goes anywhere. It's just constantly docked in port. Like I want to see like Hook on the high seas. Like I want to see him go somewhere, do something. But you learn like from one of these shots that they have that's clearly, you know, an illustration or a painting mixed with like practical sets that where the Lost Boys are in this big tree, just right down there in the bay is where the pirate ship is. Always, they're like very close, and that's your set of this movie. It's the pirate ship that's always docked, and it's the tree that's just there. It's a tree,
Yeah.
Well, and then
but-
also the pirate town, which technically is separate from the ship.
but it feels the same. Like I
Well-
was looking for it in a movie where there's so much room to have these fantastical,
right.
you know, flights of fancy and just people and just movement and freedom. It feels very constrained to these areas.
Man, I did
Like,
not feel that
there,
way.
yeah, you get your one scene with Peter Pan flying, which we'll get to later. But other than that, it's like, all right, we're back at the pirate ship, and now we're back at the.
You must hate
Lost.
theater productions then,
Yeah, they suck.
because that's kind of
No,
what the embodiment
no,
is.
that-
It's where you have a simple set,
that's
but you
complete-
can build more off of it.
No, I
than that.
agree. It's completely different, but that's not what I want from this. Like if I'm in my Peter Pan movie, I want more movement, more, you know, creativity and design and just
So it's an issue with expectations.
yeah, it's just so I don't like I get the sense that Hook is a captain. But I want to see some of that flavor that you get from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, or just like, hey, we're going out here, everyone, you know, man the decks, let's do this, we're going. Like you get that in that other Peter Pan movie where
yeah.
it was just maybe this
You-
movie was
I
missing
think
a
you-
big old crocodile. I don't
I
know.
think
you're-
a
Yeah, go ahead.
tough part, because that is, like I said, kind of how the original is. It is stationary. And so since it's a self-discovery thing, if everything else is in motion, it's hard to focus on the introspective
Right.
soul searching, I guess.
Yeah.
So
And I thi-
that might be the conflict there.
Right.
The thing is, like, I'm missing the adventure side of this.
I get
like,
it.
This is the type of story that begs for some sort of adventure, and it's really not. Like, they do go to Neverland, but then once they're there, they're just there, and they kind of like, all right, let's just visit. Let's see what the pirates
Yeah.
are up to.
Not a lot
But
of
that
exploration.
does that does bring us to the point of this is not supposed to be an adventure movie. This is actually a family movie.
It is an adventure family movie.
Well,
Okay.
no, I know
we're
what you're
not,
saying.
No, it's not. It's not really an adventure movie because the point of this movie is not to go on an adventure. It does happen to have adventure aspects in it, but the message behind this movie is a very family-oriented message.
It is, but the thing is, you can have a family-oriented message in an adventure movie, which this one is like the top genre is adventure. Like, that is the number one.
I guess
genre
my
for this.
problem is I do not feel transported.
I think
no.
also a problem that you're picking up on is this actually is central to Hook's character himself. He is a theatrical character,
Yeah.
and that
Right.
he almost commands this presence because of his melodrama and how he presents himself, not necessarily because of his feats and his accomplishments.
And
Right.
it's funny you say that because I think Spielberg, he regrets not making this a musical, and the production of this really lends itself more to being a musical because, as
Yeah.
David said, it's very stage play, and I could see these characters dancing around on these sets, and that would alleviate some of the stagnant feeling that I feel.
Right.
So
I could see that.
I understand why you feel stagnant, but it would probably put I don't want to say a poor taste in my mouth if they started dancing and singing, but a less good taste in my mouth.
It's hard to know, but I like to imagine, though, because originally, like Reese said, this was supposed to be a musical. They even wrote all the music for it. A couple of the pieces actually make its way into the final movie. But, I just like to imagine the 300 extras they have for this are actually, like, song and dance, like, theater people who are ready for a musical. And they're like, shifting gears, people. You're just normal pirates now. No dance numbers.
Well, just think of it this way. It's a theater production. It just doesn't need to have singing and dancing.
I know, but imagine, like, if you got a bunch of 300 musical people who are ready to do a song and dance, and you're like, nope, never mind.
The thing is, when there is a song and dance, it makes all of these extravagant, over-the-top costumes a little easier to stomach.
Yeah.
Or it just, at least, I don't know, because it's already just going all in.
The fact that it's in Neverland doesn't...
As I said, I didn't feel transported. I don't think this is a very creative Neverland.
You're actually right. Actually, looking at some of these shots and the angles is kind of a musical type.
Yeah.
So it's like they removed out the numbers.
Well, yeah, it's very much a theatrical look. We're just debating whether that negates what they did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Well, they set it up to be a musical, so that's just why. But
so Peter tries to save his kids. One of the most infuriating scenes in this is when he goes to all this trouble to climb the mast and reach out to his kids, and his son's like, "Mom would be able to do it." And I'm like, come on, dude. He's like all the way up there trying his best.
Like in the heights, having a stroke.
Is he really trying?
That he's afraid of.
Well, he reaches all the way out. The only way he could actually get to them is if he jumped.
yes, exactly.
But
I feel like he
parent
didn't reach that
truly-
that hard.
I think so.
like what? Yeah, I don't know.
I think that he was just he just didn't have the energy to do it. He was too afraid. He let his emotions get in the way. If it's
He's
your
out of shape,
kids-
too.
If I had a loved one on the line here, I don't care how. I am afraid of heights. I would make it work. Jack, I think, already had issues with his dad, and that's just like creating even more of a distance to show that he doesn't care enough to put his life on the line to save him. So
He did climb an entire mast, though, and go all the way to the edge and really try his best. It wasn't like he just decided, no, kids, can't make it. Sorry.
look, does it matter?
I
as a
mean, he
kid?
just went to the bottom rigging.
But, okay, I guess this is a chance to talk about Smee and Hook. Got Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins. I'm going to say perfect casting.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they were great.
Yeah, this is a great Hook, almost to the point where I wish we had even more of them.
Yeah. Well, it is named after him.
I know, weirdly.
Well, that's the musical aspect. Just look like Wicked and all those other,
Right.
True.
name it after the villain, kind of different perspective.
You're right. I hadn't even thought about that. Or Maleficent, how we have that Maleficent.
Yeah.
maybe
And it's
with
all
the sequel
based
to-
on the fact that originally it came from the concept that Hook was still alive. That's where the idea came from. And I think it was supposed to be a little bit more about Hook.
Well, and then it's also, is Peter, has he become Hook
Right.
in the real world?
one of the pirates, and also the son being slowly converted to...
No, I do think that was something they were trying to do with him, the father being like Hook, but they touched on it and then decided to not really push too far into it.
Yeah.
Which I think if they were going to do that, they should have just gone for it
They
little
did,
more.
They did go for
but-
it. There's only so much you can talk about it, though. I mean,
Well, no, it's not talking about it. It's never. It's
because
just,
he wasn't actually a pirate. It's just to show
Yeah.
sort of the illusion that he had become what he used to fight.
No, I know, but they should have just had more things pointing to him being like Hook.
Well, they are almost go there, is the thing. They're about to take his eyes out or do all these other things.
What do you mean?
You talking about the kid?
No, the dad.
Well, there is a comment from Wendy where she says you've become the pirate.
Yeah.
Like, she literally says that.
No, I know.
feel like that's,
and then that's the only time they touch on it.
yeah, but I feel like that's enough to kind of insert that as a seed in your head.
There's more than that. They also say blow him out of the water. He even says that he's the one who is destroying people's lives in the beginning through his job.
Yeah.
There are connections.
Yeah.
But not enough to make him be
Anyway.
Hook as the title name.
No, then it was never meant to be actually Hook. It was
Yeah, I know.
supposed
That's
to
why.
be-
That's why I'm saying
His cell phone is kind of the extension of that prosthetic hand. How he flips it open and adjusts the antenna.
Yeah.
That
As
is
Hook himself
interesting.
adjusts and like polishes or shines his hook too. Like that's
Yeah,
his kind of
there's
I didn't even think about that one.
identity.
There's definitely intentional parallels. But any other words on Smee and Hook, these performances? I guess we can also talk about Tinkerbell since we kind of
I think we
overlooked
should.
that as well. Julia Roberts.
Tinker
Positives,
Hell.
negatives for all these?
I never really was sold on her as Tinkerbell. And I think one of my main issues with it will come up later, but there was just something about her that felt like she just, in my opinion, doesn't fit this role.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I get that she's a great actress and that's part of why they wanted to include her, but it didn't feel like the right fit.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, I agree.
There was some drama on set too, I believe, with her, or at least not on set, more offset drama that kind of affected the production.
Yeah.
Just to expound on that, like I feel like, because Tink is obviously more of a silent
Right.
character in the animated. Here, but she's also sassy. Like you have that, chime in angrily and that kind of stuff. And here she kind of does that sometimes, but then she's also like saccharine sweet at other times.
Yeah.
It doesn't really form a cohesive character. And then they kind of throw in that her adoration for Peter,
Yeah.
but also that, kind of taking care of the Lost Boys that Wendy did, because, originally she's more of just kind of the adventurous sprite
Right.
that, is more selfish, and she does learn about herself, but it was just kind of all over the place, and it doesn't help that the like visuals, for the time, the compositing is
Not
kind
perfect.
of just,
yeah.
that doesn't
and
help
that
either.
that I can overlook, but it's like if the performance, like you're saying, isn't selling it really. She feels very distanced from the people around her.
Yeah. I'll say
And-
shout out to that dollhouse scene though,
Right.
where they kept cutting
Yeah.
from like small
That
set
one
to
was
big
good.
set. Like I thought that was a very effective use of
That's
just showing
perfect, yeah.
like size.
But then she goes and makes this bet with Hook to like 3 days, and it's like, okay, so what, are you a friend or like what? You're just using people?
Yeah. She her character, I think one of the big issues I have with the way it's written is you never really get an idea of what her motive is. She at one point is kind of the voice of inspiration for him, like, kind of remember who you are, but then in another moment is encouraging him to do the right thing,
Yeah.
which is I guess save his children too, but it's never really consistent with where she's supposed to be coming from.
She's actually a
I do-
metaphor for his cocaine addiction, the pixie dust.
Yeah, totally.
That's why he's so
That's
sporadic
exactly
and
what
such
it
a
was.
bad parent.
That's
It really makes it fly, man.
Like,
be
you remember
so-
that time he sneezed? That was after like
Come
sniffing
on,
and
just take a little more fairy dust. It'll make you feel so good.
Second star to the right, man.
oh my gosh.
I think her character is inconsistent, but I do think they end up ending her arc on kind of the right note.
Yeah.
Except for the part where she's like, "I'll always be waiting for you." Like our love is the ultimate love.
Yeah.
but
And then she
Like,
randomly
can-
turns life size or human size.
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Nonsensically, and then goes
Yeah,
back.
well,
Well, also it
We'll
means
probably talk
she had a
about
crush
that,
on young Peter Pan.
Yeah.
So this is the point where we're kind of introduced to the Lost Boys. They don't believe that Peter is in fact Peter Pan, the
And
one
why
that
would
they.
you at this point?
I know. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure I'm alone, and I will die on this hill fighting this battle. But this is easily my least favorite part of the movie. All the Lost Boys stuff, I think, is almost terrible. So that's
Up until
my stance.
the food fight.
Yes.
I don't.
Yes.
Like I don't like the food fight either.
Yes.
I don't
Thank you, AJ.
I think. I don't know. It just all screams like Nickelodeon slime fest to me. Like all the and
Is
the
that
the
a
child.
problem?
Yes.
So I understand why you don't like it, but the point of it is that they're the Lost Boys, they're orphans, they don't have parents, they're unruly. It's meant to be extremely childish.
Well, but I also think this is where the movie like loses focus and doesn't know how to show good time management in terms of like getting the plot rolling along. Like this
they're
is
like skateboarding on a half pipe. Like, okay, that's
I know.
Yeah.
It's like
place.
yeah, and
So,
they've got all
yeah.
these tracks around here that are clearly more like.
I think if anything dates this film the most, it's the skateboarding.
yeah, I agree with
there was that
skateboarding.
huge period of time where they were just like
1990s.
skateboarding is the thing, you know?
And get ready to hate me, but Rufio is not cool.
Well,
You are correct. You're going to be wrong. People will hate you.
Yes,
and
they will
you
hate
can-
me.
You can die on that hill. We'll leave you there.
Okay, one of the things I will say about this sequence, though, that I really like is I love looking at the costuming for all the Lost Boys and how when you look at them, you can tell that all their clothes are from different eras. So, like, they're an accumulation of kids that haven't grown up
And that's
from
cool.
different eras.
I like that little
Yeah.
detail, but I would have loved if all of them acted like differently or of that era. And maybe they do, but they just don't emphasize it.
Right.
Uh,
Well, they probably model themselves after Rufio since he's the leader of the group, and
Yeah.
he looks like he's an 80s child.
yeah, he does like power metal or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Apparently, this was a tough part of the production for Spielberg, just kind of trying to get all these kids to behave.
I bet.
And some of them are very good, and some of them are just like you could tell like Steven Spielberg was just like put his hands on their shoulder and said like, "Hey, stop moving for one effing second and just say this line." Like he probably didn't say it like that, but
Yeah,
like just guys, stop. Like cuz some of the line delivery is so stilted, and I know they're kids, but it's still like I mean, it just kind of breaks the reality of the movie, whereas I can tell they're just like
Well,
The other kids don't like me because I'm fat.
Did they say that? Did he say that?
Pretty much.
Thudbutt?
Pretty
Is that
much.
his name?
Thud Butt. I like Thud Butt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess this is the whole. I don't know. I don't think he's become Pan yet, so I think we
Yeah.
can move on with
But
the story if you want.
I
I-
think another part I liked from this, sorry, I'm just going to mention
No,
it,
go
is
ahead.
like one of my favorite parts is when, what was it, Pockets?
Pockets, yeah.
He like starts, scrutinizing this new Peter and then like kind of messes around with his face for a little bit. And he's like, "Oh, there you are, Peter." Like
that's-
I just think that was a sweet moment.
No, that movie's pure gold. I love that part.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about the food fight scene. Despite
Yeah,
Reese's
let's
feelings
talk
for
about
it.
the food fight.
Because the imagination, and he's just sitting there immersed in it, and he's trying, I guess, but they're all putting on this thing for him, and the transition between imaginary to reality is, I thought it was well done.
I think so too.
That was one of my favorite parts in the movie.
As a child,
I-
that was my favorite scene.
I like that some of the food is like, oh, it looks like Thanksgiving dinner, and then there's food that looks like just Play-Doh.
Yep.
Like in a pie.
Well, it might have been actual Play-Doh.
So I think the whole point was that because it's make believe, and at that age, the things they're making up, it's like what to a child would sound good, and what would you imagine it to
Well,
be
it's almost like a realistically rendered child's drawing of food.
like
you know,
like cotton candy ice cream. Have you seen like the over exaggerated colors on that?
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah.
it's marketed towards kids. It's the colors that
Yeah.
kids like, and it's the meals that they remember. And I remember seeing that as a kid and wanting to eat it.
yep.
Reese, you're the post Neverland Peter.
Well, they immediately juxtapose it, or actually, I think prior, but they juxtapose these things back and forth between Hook, the ship, and the Lost Boys holdout,
Yeah.
hideout. But, there's this feast in the captain's quarters, and Shmi's just like going at it while Hook's monologuing, but just this overabundance of rich food and everything. And it just kind of is like meaningless to Hook, yet at the same time, the Lost Boys have pretty much nothing. They're literally eating air. They
They're
have to
having
like,
so much more fun with imagination. Yeah.
I mean, it's so much more bangerang.
Yeah.
And, I think a remake of this would have some Skrillex soundtrack in here.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
bring the Skrillex
gosh.
in there.
gosh.
I would kill to see that.
Hey, it worked in Deadpool.
Yeah. Maybe I am the old curmudgeon here because I immensely enjoy all of the Hook scenes with Smee, and
Well, the
they're so good.
suicide. Try to stop
Yes,
it.
it's
I do.
Committing suicide.
I do love Hook in this movie.
Yeah.
He is
So dramatic.
he is great.
Don't try to stop me, Smee. Don't try to
Don't
stop me.
stop me.
Don't stop me.
I said.
Don't stop me. Smee, try to stop me. Try to stop me, Smee. Try to stop
And
me.
he's just sitting there like uselessly. Yeah.
I'm not. Okay, all right.
By the way, the most like 1-for-1 to the cartoon is Smee in this.
Yeah.
Like Bob Hoskins is Smee. Like he's almost the cartoon character.
Well, the thing that I like about his character is that they add a little bit of underrated intelligence to him.
Yeah.
You know, where he is kind of
He has some
a bit of a
good thoughts.
mastermind behind it.
Well,
but
what I like too is like they establish their relationship really well. Where Hook hates everybody, but he has this like just this slight camaraderie with Smee that
Yeah.
he doesn't ever like to vocalize. But
Right.
it's just this unspoken, camaraderie.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because as bad as Hook is, he's almost not bad.
Yeah.
Spielberg did that on purpose. I
Yeah.
was watching an interview where he was talking about how Hook was supposed to be endearing in a way.
He kind of is.
Except he kills Rufio.
Yeah, that's the one part where it's like,
Well,
okay, now
Which
he's
actually
lost.
I don't
but-
like Rufio, so I do like.
Yeah,
He's-
I think when we get to that part, we'll talk about the Rufio death because
Yeah.
there's probably more to say there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like this whole part at the beginning where he's like, well, I'm just gonna, kill his kids. And then Tinkerbell talks to him. He's like, hey, come on, wait a little bit. And he's like, all right, let's get the Peter
it's
back.
Like, it's because he's trying to look for stimulation. Like
Yeah.
you get the sense that he pretty much has everything he could want here except a foe.
Yeah.
So like what he wants is competition. He wants something that stimulates him, which is
he needs his Valjean.
very, very realistic in some ways as an adult, where you're just you're going through the same routine, but you get to a point where you're thinking, I need something new. I need something I can tackle that's different from, my everyday life. So
he dreams of the glory days.
His character is very relatable in that way. And I think it's fun that he has just kind of this spark lights up when he knows that Peter Pan is around, or like that he'll come back to his old self because he's my worthy opponent.
I do think this scene should have been placed before Peter Pan made it to Neverland, though. Like, it should have shown that Hook is only one part. Like, he's missing this other part of himself
that
without
makes
Peter
sense.
around.
Yeah.
Like, I would have liked to see him wallowing in just like, I don't have my other
Left
half.
hand.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the purpose of living? But the scene is awkwardly placed after he already knows that Peter Pan is back and he's going to be training for this battle, and then suddenly
Right.
he's like, I'm useless and I need to kill myself.
I wouldn't say it's awkwardly placed. It's just that there should have been a preamble to this showing why Hook is seeking him out.
I
Right,
think it's
yeah.
alluding to that stagnation, and I think that stagnation is intentional, just not super heavy-handed, so that
Yeah.
some people are like, okay, this feels dull, and then
Yeah.
not the most well delivered.
Yeah. But apparently this movie was 4 hours originally, so who knows where this scene actually
No
was
way.
at one point.
4 hours.
Yeah, that I think the mermaid scene got some cut out to lower the PG rating.
Yeah, Robin Williams didn't get his NC-17 cut like he did for Mrs. Doubtfire.
I can't believe there's an NC-17 cut for Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
That's so strange.
Well, it's just because of Robin Williams doing so many goofy takes that are very inappropriate.
Okay, but like NC-17 requires nudity, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think graphically explicit dialogue is similar.
Question here. Does any of this, especially with the Lost Boys and the training montage kind of thing, how does Robin Williams stack up against, say, like Rick Moranis in like Little Giants or something like that?
Or Honey, I Shrunk
Do
the
you
Kids.
fe-
Or
Well, yeah, but like, do you feel like this tries to like capture that same kind of, I don't know, the youthful What
I do.
you catch my drift?
Yes, I do. I think it's in that same league. I don't know if it's perfectly successful, but I do think it kind of captures that youthful spirit or that nature that you're referring to.
I think they do a great job. I mean, having Robin Williams interacting with children in movies seems to be a successful sort of mixture. He seems to do really well. And I think it's because he's a child himself at heart, honestly. His ability to sort of connect and make the other people in his scenes better makes these child actors better, I think. And there were conversations, if you watch, there's a YouTube video of the Lost Boys having a reunion. I think it was like 2 years after Robin Williams had passed, and it's kind of in his honor as well. But they were discussing what it was like working with him and how, you know, they were unruly and they had all these issues, and he kind of was speaking to them on their level and was able to get more out of them. Mm-hmm. And he even gave a book to Dante Bosco, which inspired him to like get more into poetry and all this stuff. There's just a lot of stuff with the Lost Boys. I feel like Robin Williams had his inner child brought out, which brought out more successful scenes out of the kids, which is why I really liked it. Mm.
I do think that his chemistry with the kids was greater than his chemistry with Tinkerbell.
Oh,
yes. 100%.
Noah, you'll continue that plot?
Mm-hmm. After attempting to find a happy thought in order to fly, he just can't come up with one until he remembers he is a dad. He begins to fly with his kids in mind. Soon after this, Peter plans to take down Hook and take back his kids. Peter and the Lost Boys attack the ship and take back Jack and Maggie. Hook, in a final attempt to kill Peter Pan, rolls a natural 1 and is eaten by the alligator. Now Peter must leave Neverland with his kids. They bid farewell to the Lost Boys and fly back home. Thus ends Hook.
Like I'm assuming that was a D&D reference?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Cool. All right, so this is the big point in the movie where Peter Pan is really starting to discover, you know, his past life and who he is. Mm-hmm. And much to Rufio's dislike, is starting to win back all the Lost Boys. I have a lot of mixed feelings on all this. There's some really high highs and some low lows for me throughout this whole like Peter Pan rediscovery. I think it goes on a little too long, and there's maybe one too many plot points, especially with like, oh, Tinkerbell's now a romantic interest. Didn't know that. Don't know why that needs to be there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's talk about the kids.
Well, the baseball scene kind of was cool because he actually feels like a kid, and then Hook actually seems like he has genuine enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have the levity of, you know, him stealing a base and they shoot him. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I love that part.
This is important to kind of humanize Hook a little bit. You have the baseball game and also the hitting the clocks. Whereas there's this ulterior motive to get Jack to be, you know, to get Jack on their side and to kind of, but then you start to get the sense that Hook and Smee actually like, that Jack likes them. And they're kind of starting to actually form a little bit of a bond.
Right.
Like, I mean, it goes a little into an unhealthy territory where Hook's about to, like, you know, take his eye out, but or give him a scar or something.
He's giving
him an ear piercing.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was much darker than that. I thought it was just like give him an eye patch.
You're gonna have an eye patch, son. No.
Like, let me stab your eye out real quick.
But the therapeutic aspect of the clock smashing, and Jack breaking down and, you know, literally smashing all the clocks, taking out his frustration of his, you know, difficult relationship with his father, starts crying, you know, pulls his cap bill down over his eyes.
I love that part.
And then you have this almost genuine, like probably genuine heart-to-heart between Hook and Jack. And, I mean, this was one of the most touching scenes of the movie, really.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's like
it
invites the question of which is the, you know, actual better father figure,
right?
Morals aside, but in relationships,
if not for where Hook ultimately ends in this movie, he's almost a more sympathetic character in a way.
Well, something I also noticed is that Hook does that thing where he gets down on the kid's level to talk to him face to face, and that has been like something I read about a lot of that psychiatrists say when you talk
Yeah.
to children, you get down on their level to talk to them. Like when you talk down to them, you're not going to get as much progress as being on the level with them. But just I love little moments in movies where they have something that is very relatable, or where when the kid pulls his cap down over his eyes when he's tearing up, like that is such a little kid thing to do. Like kids they're like, I don't want them to see me crying, especially if you're a boy, I'm sure. Like you just, like, I can't let this father figure see me cry, you know? So it's just little moments like that for some reason I just really love.
Yes. So yeah, I like all the Hook stuff. I think it's mostly great. As I've said, that's like kind of, you know, those are the moments that I think are well executed, and I just enjoy all of the dialogue around that and what happens there.
We only sort of touched on it a little bit, but the whole thing with Hook and Jack being sort of his counterplay to Peter Pan,
Right.
is taking his son emotionally
trying to
from
groom him almost. Yeah,
it's
towards
really
their side.
weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
And it makes it more personal in a heartfelt way. So whenever when that whole baseball scene is happening, it's fun seeing Hook, interacting with them, building that bond with Jack.
Right.
But seeing Peter watch secretly and get more emotional, because he never did go to see his son's games. He never made it to the games.
Right.
Getting to see his son play baseball, even in this weird sort of like pirate-based fake baseball game, it kind of
gets
touched
amped up.
him and changed the emotional
Right.
stakes. Like he was supposed to steal the hook and run off and crow and beat Peter Pan, but
It's a scene where it made me want the pirates and the Lost Boys to just like, hey guys, let's just get along. We can have some fun together.
Well, where Jack hits the homer and Hook is like, "That's my boy," and Peter's like, "That's my boy."
No, my boy Jack. Yeah. It's that scene, especially, like, Robin Williams always has this look in his eyes that is so he has puppy eyes for some reason. Like, it's just
well, he always has that sparkle.
Yeah,
too. Like,
he always has that sparkle, and
Yeah.
you're always drawn in by his eyes, at least for me. But I think another thing that this movie does well is the difference between Jack and Maggie. As far as their ages go, Jack is the older child and starting to get to that age of independence, where Maggie is younger and still kind of like she denies anything about how her parents might not like her company or not want her or not love her. But Jack can see kind of like he's starting to become more aware of sort of adult tendencies. So it's interesting that they kind of Hook plays upon that, but knows that Maggie is sort of a lost cause because she has that childlike loyalty to her parents still.
But at the same time, that's why going to Neverland is so important as a theme, because for Peter as a father, it's almost too late,
right,
in a sense, for him and Jack. So they go to Neverland to freeze time before it is too late.
Right.
So that they can actually fix and mend their relationship kind of on a different playing field.
Yes.
A baseball field.
So how do y'all feel about Peter fully transitioning into back to Peter, or reverting back to Peter Pan, the first flight and all these moments where he's just starting to really prove himself once again, and everyone starts to believe in him?
I love that scene.
Do you think this is it ramps that up at the right pace, or
yes,
like when he's flying, does it feel like that scene in Man of Steel where Superman can finally,
I didn't even care about that scene in Superman, to be honest.
Oh, it's so good.
Man
Okay,
of Steel.
For me, it was more. I was humming in my head from the cartoon. You think of the wonderful thought or whatever the lyrics are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As he's floating along, and the kids, originally the Darling children, learned to fly.
Yeah.
I think it would have been appropriate to have that musical number there.
Yeah.
Something. Cool. Yeah, something a little like more magical. But David, quick bone to pick with you.
Man of Steel, yes.
Man of Steel, not a great movie. To some people love it.
It's a good movie.
I think it's pretty good. But one thing you cannot deny is that flight scene with that Hans Zimmer score is so good. It is like
It's a fun scene.
It's a chilling, like goosebumps when that happens. Like when he puts his fist on the ground and you start to see the little pebbles move around his fist. Oh, come on, David.
I remember enjoying the movie, but I hardly even remember that scene.
Go away. Get out of here.
Like, I love the scene because as AJ was saying, he found his old hiding place where he and Wendy and John and the other brother, Tyler?
The other brother,
No.
Tyler.
John and
Michael?
Michael, yes. They found the old cave that they used to hide in and hang out in where they would sleep. And that's where it finally, he gets hit by the baseball and it brings back the memories he had been suppressing. And he was able to...
The shadow.
Yeah, the shadow is still in there, I guess. Finds him there.
Yeah.
Unless the shadow's an embodiment of him getting his memory back. I don't know. But... I love that scene and how they set it up. I thought they did it perfectly. You also get the flashback at that scene.
I think it's a little too little too late. Like I wanted him to realize he was Peter Pan and get those abilities earlier on in the movie.
Well, I think that's fine. That's a fair thing, but that doesn't.
So when he does
discredit this
finally
scene.
do it, though, it's like, I don't know. I wasn't transported. I was like, okay, yeah, I expected this because he had already been showing signs of being Peter Pan, and he had basically become Peter Pan already, except for the whole flying part. And then when he does, it was just like, it wasn't done poorly, but it was just like, oh, yeah, I expected that. You're like that. You're flying. Yep, cool.
Well, it's not the flight that's the actual, power. It's the power of
that he
fatherhood.
believes.
Yeah.
Or I thought it was just like, oh, you believe now, and you thought these happy thoughts.
His
you found
happy
these
thought
happy
was
thoughts.
the realization of his children. I
Yeah,
believe.
it just didn't seem like the revelation that it should have. Like it wasn't. Like it just lacked that emotional punch for me.
Didn't help that
felt
we
the
get
emotion.
the Tinkerbell in the dress scene right after.
Yeah.
Yep,
I think that distracts too much from his own realization. But I think this is where I start getting hazy about the sequence of events. And I think, what is it? Tinkerbell shows him her dress.
Yeah, it gets
and
kind of
then
weird
they
for a
start
second.
Talking
What-
about
They kiss.
the
What is
old
important in that
hideout.
scene is him finding the thimble that Wendy
Yeah.
used to use, and that
It's a
recalls
kiss.
the motherhood.
It's a kiss, AJ.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I missed that, but yeah, the thimble really represents the maternal caretaker aspect that Wendy was kind of self-sacrificial, and even continued that into her adulthood.
Right.
She didn't lose that from her time in Neverland, so I think
That's
that's what
true.
him realizing is furthers that parenthood aspect of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's when
Well,
all
don't
the things
forget-
come back to him. That's what jogs his memory, is the love that someone taking care of someone else has.
Not the fact that he got slammed in the head with a baseball.
Well, that just
That
kind of
could be
like
it.
jogged it a little
I think
bit.
that jogged his memory a little bit.
But it was still something that was inevitable anyway. It's just
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
kind of made it
It was the
happen right then and
catalyst,
there.
Yeah.
So let's get to the finale here. Basically, has all of his powers now. He's Peter Pan. He believes. He has all those happy thoughts to get him flying.
But
And-
also he remembers his childhood and how he was
Right.
lost as a baby, which is obviously not happy.
Right.
Yes.
But that full kind of duality of the sadness and the happiness, and
Yes.
I don't know, a full fruition of maturity. I
Yeah,
guess.
it all kind of comes full circle. And then we get our battle between the pirates and the Lost Boys. And ultimately, Peter Pan and his friends win out, but not before Hook kills Rufio. Rufio says to Peter, like, I wish I had a father, yada, 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 all that.
Like you.
Like you, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Rufio, you're dead.
Oh.
And Peter Pan returns to the real world, but makes some sort of promise about, I won't forget, yada, yada, I'll be happy, all that stuff.
Wow, you're just throwing all this caution to the wind.
To live would be an awfully big
t-
adventure.
We're going to talk about it. I just wanted to cover all that.
Yeah.
So what did y'all think about the final, the battle, all the whole swashbuckling
Love
action?
Reese, David and I had the exact same reaction when Rufio got stabbed. We were like, wait, Rufio dies?
Yeah, I was
we've seen this movie before,
A lot.
but we forgot.
the thing is, I remembered.
How did you forget that?
I don't know. I think because they kind of brush over
They
it really
do.
quickly.
Yeah, I remembered he died halfway through my rewatch.
Oh,
Where
okay.
I thought Rufio made it to the end, and then halfway through, I was like, oh wait, Rufio dies in this, doesn't he? Like I kind of remembered, but it wasn't something that was like, oh, a pivotal moment or a big moment in the movie.
Yeah.
That's Reese's happy thought.
That's my happy thought.
Rufio
Exactly.
died.
I
Sick.
flew off the couch when I realized Rufio died.
Reese, come back.
I lodged myself in the ceiling.
That's weird.
Well, that's how it happens. I thought this whole sequence lasted too long, and when Tub Butt or whatever his name is, Fud Butt rolls up into a little ball, it was the worst effect I've ever seen.
They made a whole practical giant human ball for that.
And it was terrible. Like the moment you see it rolling down that ramp, I'm like, okay.
So the reason this is not working for you, I have a whole thing. I'm gonna save it for the ending part of this. But
For when he reviews it.
no, actually, you know what? I'll bring it up now because I feel like Reese needs sort of like a jogging on why he's probably not liking this movie before.
No,
he
he's
gets
just
to
a
his
he's
score.
a GIF kind of guy, not a Peter Pan kind of guy.
Oh, that's right.
Ah.
Very
There you go.
bad.
Exactly.
That's
It's the
it.
peanut butter.
Look, so this movie is very unique in the fact that there's not really anything that captures a mood like it or what the intended audience is. It's got all the magic and excitement of an adventure film with all the safety and charm of a bedtime story. So many of the faults
All the
of
swear
reading?
words.
I
of,
wrote this down.
Oh, okay.
And so many of the faults that I think people have with this is because they're looking through the lens of a traditional adventure blockbuster. Like, this isn't meeting the expectations that I get from watching Indiana Jones or, any other childhood-based sort of adventure movie because it's not supposed to. It's much more than that, and it's a child's movie at heart. It's centered literally to the content with which it's presenting. So I see this almost as a literal embodiment of a bedtime story. The theater production, the fact that it looks more like actual sets, the way they attack the pirates with eggs, everything about this screams like there are no real stakes. This is a kid's interpretation of a war with pirates.
Okay. Well,
And you're-
counter argument.
Yeah.
There are movies like this
No,
that
they're
I
not.
enjoy. This one's just not a good version of that.
There is no other movie like this, I think.
Okay. Well, but what I'm saying is I enjoy children's fairy tale movies.
But
I do.
I think you didn't go into it thinking this was a bedtime story.
Oh, I definitely did. I know this is a family. It's Peter Pan. How could you not
Look,
go in
the whole
thinking
like,
it's
all right, the whole human ball rolling thing that didn't work for you would work for a child who's watching this through their own lens. It didn't work for you because you like, oh, that's a bad practical effect. Kids aren't thinking that.
Well, the thing is, I'm not docking at points for that scene. I was just observing that was a terrible effect.
And it's just an example of things like I feel like you just keep seeing it through too.
Well, the thing is, I hold.
But was
Stephen
Tinkerbell
King movies,
important?
Or sorry, not Stephen King. I hold Steven Spielberg movies to another standard than other movies, like because he is very meticulous. He's very detailed, and everything is crafted to the nth degree. So you expect a certain level of quality from a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
And in any other Spielberg movie, you will not see a movie with that effect in it.
I think it's just because those movies aren't this movie. It's a different movie, and you're not supposed to see this through the lens of E.T.
You're not going to win this argument, and neither am I. It's just going to be two bulls butting heads.
No, that's fine. I just think that people listening, I feel like that might help enlighten people who have your similar opinion.
Well, they will be encouraged by your score for this movie,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
So you're telling me that my whole thing about this being a bedtime story did nothing to change your opinion?
No.
All right. Well, I have another thing I wrote
the thing
down
is,
for
I already
this.
know it's a bedtime story. Like, I think there are better told bedtime story-esque movies than this one.
All right. Well,
Princess
here's a quote
Bride.
for you.
Yeah, like I think.
Actually, I brought up Princess Bride to Reese.
Well, and Irina referenced this earlier. Labyrinth. I think that is a better movie than this, and it is very much of the same ilk.
I mean, I think Princess Bride is a better interpretation.
Oh, yes. Actually, even thank you. You solidified my argument.
AJ said it.
Oh, sorry, AJ. I didn't hear you. Princess Bride, 10 out of 10 movie, does what this movie is doing perfectly. This movie just misses the mark for me. For me.
So, look, here's a quote that that Steven Spielberg had. I think it's necessary, and there's no other way to incorporate it.
I do.
So here's a quote from him. Peter Banning is a man who forgot how to enjoy life, and he has no imagination. He once was the embodiment of that imagination, the Pan, when he was 12 years old. When he came and grew up, he lost his imagination and became another person in the crowd. So I believe, in my own words, I believe this is what happens with adults who watch this movie. They've lost their imagination and childhood wonder. It is easy for critics to use this movie as a scapegoat for not giving movies a good score. It wasn't perfect and it had flaws, so it was decided that this would sort of be a sacrifices in their mind, even when it had merit. So they are Hook, the people who dislike this movie who used to like it. They are the adults who lost their way and lost the ability to see this movie.
Okay,
in the right
then
lens.
why do I love Elf?
It's because that's not the same movie. It's not
But
at
it's
all.
the same.
moron.
It's the same type of movie where you're trying to rediscover your childhood, where it's like everyone else is. They're in the hustle and bustle of New York City, working at their jobs, and everyone's lame. And then Elf comes in and just injects this
I'm
life
guessing
and
because
childlike
it's in
wonder.
the real world and you like the real world. If they did the whole thing in that setted like Elf world, you would have hated it.
Look, I know that
Zoe
you think,
Deschanel as Tinkerbell.
yes.
Oh
yes.
sign me up.
As long as she's blonde, because
Yes,
she looks so
just like Elf.
Yeah, or red hair. She can be red haired. We'll see.
No red hair. No.
I'm sorry, David. I'm not going to budge on this. I have a very firm opinion.
I think you
And-
decided and didn't even care about my opinion at all.
No, I care about your
I
opinion.
wonder how that feels.
Look, I'm not going to keep it going though.
Yeah.
I also think Reese did call my opinions and
There
validate
are
them.
so many salty people on this episode.
I
It's
just
so
love
funny.
how Noah
salty.
has been quiet this whole time up until that moment so he could say, I wonder how that feels.
Granted, I also feel like Reese did address everything. He just disagrees.
Yes.
All right. We're talking about this swashbuckling
We can.
ending.
It's an action sequence. you know,
Okay.
it's
I enjoy it. It has the energy that children would love.
I love that scene.
This is very much like a children's sequence. Like while I was watching it, I didn't really feel connected to this part, but it has the energy that I think children enjoy.
They did so much with the swashbuckling. They
They
had
did,
training. I actually was impressed by the kind of sword fighting they were doing.
I think still my only problem is killing Rufio. I don't
that
think
was
you
the
should
problem.
have, because it's just not important.
and also
Like,
you
they didn't
want
build up
Hook.
his character enough for that.
The movie would have been more satisfying if Hook actually changed for the better.
Uh-huh.
Like if they had, I think so. Like because we've already seen Hook end badly in the regular Peter Pan story. Like he always ends like, oh, he's straddling this crocodile as it tries to bite him. Like I wanted to see some actual growth in that character. You get hints of it, and then he just reverts back to just being like a mustache twirling villain, almost literally mustache twirling.
He definitely does actually twirl his mustache.
Yeah.
But I think in this world, in Neverland, you don't change. I don't think Hook or the Lost Boys are really going to make like a giant leap emotionally. I think the story was more about him getting his kids out of there.
Well,
I thought Rufio actually, it was important that he did die because then that still establishes Hook as the villain.
Yeah. But it only barely, and then they're all like, oh, he's just a mean old man. And then they just go home,
Well, that's
I guess.
why it was good to do it, but they did it poorly.
It's just his character. I wanted a little more, and his last line was, I wish I had a father like you, when you really don't get any moment where they have a father-son bonding experience necessarily.
Well, that just means that Peter's arrived as a good father
Yeah.
now.
But I think my point is, like, this whole sequence is this kind of rough and tumble fun that kids like play fighting would have. And then you just kind of throw in these moments that are supposed to be significant, but they're glossed over really quickly, and they just kind of move on to the next thing. And they're like, all right, time to go home. You know, it's just so rushed.
I have to say, based on Hook, I feel like it would have been better to not have him necessarily kill somebody, but instead show that he's actually not teaching Jack good things to do. Because,
Jack kills Rufio.
yeah, no, he does at the end.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, imagine if he had Jack kill him.
well, that would
as
be
a
terrible.
final
That would be a
test.
little
That would
too
be a little-
complicated.
that might be a little too
Pirate,
far.
you must kill Rufio.
No, but, you could have him just teaching him things that are not necessarily the worst things ever, but are clearly bad
Right.
things.
This is a cigarette. You must smoke this out of a
Cigar.
pipe.
Like, like with how to treat people. Like, oh, you can treat that guy like he's nothing because you're a pirate. Like, you could have him doing stuff like that.
Right.
And just being a general bad influence, and that would show you, oh, this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
But instead, you have him doing almost heartwarming things throughout the movie, and then he kills somebody.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I think there's a better way to do that.
Yeah.
That said,
I get you.
I don't think Rufio was that big of a character, so maybe it didn't bother me too much.
Too much, yeah.
I think he should have been a bigger character.
Maybe.
Before we wrap up the story, can I give my quick pitch for
I guess.
what I think would have been really cool if this movie did?
Gatling guns.
As a sequel, yes, Gatling guns, flamethrowers, Molotov cocktails.
I'd love it if the Lost Boys pull up in these like gangster mobiles. One of them's got like a Gatling gun, and they just do a drive-by of the freaking ship.
Yeah.
That scene where like, hey, Peter, and they hit him in the face with mud. He actually hits him with a Molotov cocktail.
So here's my quick pitch, and I did not write any of this down.
Yeah.
I was
Why don't
just
you brag about it?
No. The thing is, I'm just trying to cover for any like flaws or
Right,
plot holes
right.
that I might have in it.
Gotcha.
But I would keep all the stuff before he goes to Neverland just as is, because it's perfect. He gets back on the plane to go back home after his meeting with Wendy. They have all that heartfelt discussion about how he is Peter Pan, but something happens. Plane seems to go down. Doesn't. I mean, it's like in this otherworldly whatever. Plane crashes, or they think it does. And it becomes Castaway for the first half of the movie, where the family or these people are marooned on this island. And you have almost this time jump, 6 months, just like Tom Hanks did, of discovering, and this island starts to slowly, I don't know, materialize as Neverland or whatever. And instead of, it was in their minds worked it out to be this, like logically they're like, oh, the plane went down, but actually they crossed over into Neverland through the plane, and they're slowly rediscovering the magical aspects of Neverland, and all these things start to come out. And that just what I want to see is that transition that Tom Hanks went through, where he's like, he's in this, he works for FedEx in Castaway.
Yeah.
But he's slowly stripped of all that kind of corporate workman-like type stuff, and then is remolded
Wilson.
throughout that. And I think it'd be such a bold choice to have like production stop, wait a year, have Robin Williams get in like super good shape, and then through the transition of this movie, like really actually becomes Peter Pan. Like
That would be interesting.
And as he's starting to believe in himself again, he starts to see the real magic of this island, and everything starts to just kind of come out of the woodworks. And that as I was thinking, I was just like, that'd be such a cool, like.
So what you're saying is we replace Tinkerbell with a plane.
Yes. There you go. It wraps back around to working out in Noah's favor. But it'd be so cool if like maybe people on this plane are actually, one of the people on the plane is Hook, and he's like on the island there too. And all these other characters that you've kind of like seen turn out to be like, I don't know, just these characters he's known from Neverland. Just a kind of fun idea, I thought. But that's my pitch. I'll probably
That
cut
would
it
be
out.
cool.
No, I think
But-
that's a great idea.
Write a script.
Yeah.
I'll write a script.
Write it up.
It'll be my own Peter Pan.
We deserve
Yeah.
another Hook sequel. Reimagining.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't think that's not to discredit what this movie did. I'm just like, it got my brain working, so this movie must have done something right.
It inspired you.
It did inspire me. Before we wrap up, thoughts on the last moments of this movie? How how everyone kind of makes their way back to the. Oh, there's that terrible. Like it just looks bad. No,
It's not that bad, but it's kind of funny.
I remember liking that as a kid.
The little thud butt big ball roll thing.
It doesn't look great, but it is supposed to be funny.
That's about as realistic as them fighting pirates with whatever these food mechanisms are.
At least those are like practically believable. But
Did
anyway,
you guys
what?
expect them to end the story by taking the Lost Boys with them and then using Wendy's adoption program?
Yeah, I thought
actually
so
find
too.
homes for all of them.
I kind of did because it had been a while since I had seen it, and I was like, wait, did they go back? Because I know that's what happened with the OG Lost Boys, but yeah.
All right, so they make it back to the real world. Peter Pan is, or Peter, we'll just call him Peter Banning, but he's Peter Pan.
He's just Peter.
He's resting in the snow, which he would have had some form of frostbite or something, just
Magic.
but whatever. Bob Hoskins is sweeping up snow.
For some reason.
Yeah, and he's reunited with his family and all is well in the world, and then the old man goes flying out the window.
Toodles.
Toodles. Yeah, Toodles goes flying out the window.
All right, toodles.
And that is the end. Thoughts on the end of this movie? Are y'all happy?
Yeah.
I'm happy.
You kind of did a little shrug there, David.
No, I think it was a good ending. I think it wraps everything nicely, but the whole toodles flying off part is like
goofy.
Why? I mean, I really liked it, but you're also like, I don't know why you did that.
Yeah,
Like,
he just kind of jumps
I
out the
will
window.
say-
For the wife, though, this should be shocking for her, or more shocking than
and
it is.
she's just like, oh my goodness.
This is so amazing.
Toodles is flying.
And he just literally jumps out the window and starts.
flies off.
One of the saddest moments for me is when he comes to the bedroom door and Toodles says, Peter, I missed out on the adventure again, didn't I? And I was like, oh,
Poor
Toodles.
But then he gets
Poor
his
man.
adventure. He
got his marbles
he gets
back.
to
His
fly.
marbles.
That was one of my favorite moments when Toodles is just crawling on the ground in the very beginning. He's like, what's wrong? He's like, I lost my marbles. And then Peter just turns around and he's like, Lisa?
Any final thoughts, guys?
Find your childhood, Reese.
All right. Dude.
Hey, if you subscribe, Reese might just find his childhood again.
It's true.
5 stars.
If you have money, I will find my childhood.
Make him.
That sounds
make
really
him
creepy when you
Yeah,
say
it
it like
sounded
that.
really
again.
sinister there.
If you give me money, I will find my childhood.
No. All right. This is the end of the story portion of the podcast. We're going to take a quick break. And on the other side, we'll get into our reviews, what critics thought, do some box office, and close out with a little bit of franchise talk. Though there's not as much on that end here, but we'll try to make the most of it.
No spoilers.
All right. See y'all then. Welcome back. Let's talk about Hook. David, Hook. You got our reviews there. You want to pull them at random?
Sure do, and I sure will.
All right.
All right. First up, Noah with a 7.5.
Yeah,
My man.
I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. It's a kids movie, so a lot of things that you typically wouldn't, typically would apply to a more adult audience. I could look over, like flaws with, say, kids rolling down
Realism.
things into people. Just childish acts I can okay with this movie, not only because it's a kids movie, but also because it's, Neverland. It's a weird place where weird things happen. But overall, I thought this movie's message was really nice. I liked all the characters, or at least the villain, the kids, and of course, Robin Williams. And I don't know. I don't have too many issues with it aside from Tinkerbell, and she's actually that whole subplot plus the weird mermaid kiss breathing thing, which I don't think needed to be there either. For some reason, someone wanted to have Robin Williams kiss a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
But
He
Robin
kissed like
Williams.
5 different people in this movie.
and almost Wendy too. So
How does his wife feel at the end of this?
well, she
doesn't
won't
know.
know. And conveniently, he's gonna
She'll
forget
never
about
know.
it.
Yeah.
Look, 3
But-
times it was for his own survival.
Yeah.
3 out of 5. That's okay.
Yeah.
These alligator scales on your shirt.
Anyways, other than the sexualization of Peter Pan, I like this movie.
All right. Honestly, Noah, I told Reese beforehand, I actually thought you were going to hate this movie because I knew that your family didn't grow up with it, and I thought maybe it just wouldn't resonate with you. And it really makes me happy to know that you got
it's
some
all right.
enjoyment out of this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's all right.
I view children's movies through a child's lens,
As you should.
unless they're just terrible.
Yes,
But this one isn't.
It is possible.
Percy Jackson.
Yeah, that one.
Next up is David. Ah, man, I was going to make myself go last, but... All right. Well, we're going to start off high on this one. I'm going to give this movie an 8.
Ah.
Yes.
And you are
knew it.
reading your review.
You don't have to let people know that.
Oh,
They will
I don't know why you feel it. They won't know. They really won't. This movie is so perfect in many ways. It captures the essence of childhood and imagination. The sets are bigger than life. Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman give fun and exciting performances. One of the biggest factors that affected this movie for me was how long it took to get to Peter Pan. The fact that Peter Banning is sort of the central focus for this entire movie up until the last, less than quarter of the movie, it felt like. I think Robin Williams does his best work when he gets to be Peter Pan. Like the childhood excitement and innocence that he is always known for comes out. And we only get a small snippet of it. And I think even Steven Spielberg said at one point that, when he was playing Peter Pan, it wasn't even really acting. It was just second nature for him. Mm-hmm. But he had to work really hard to be the lawyer, the mean dad, because that wasn't second nature. That he had to really act for that part. So, banning the lawyer was the biggest struggle for him, and it was good and it was convincing, but the most fun was when he got to let loose and be more childlike. So it's fun, it's energetic in what we would probably expect for the whole movie. Unfortunately, we only get a little bit at the end. That does infuse the movie with energy, but it makes the earlier parts less exciting. So that was the biggest issue. And then maybe don't create a love interest between Tinkerbell and Pan. It was awkward, it was forced, and it didn't add anything to the movie. Another issue is that the movie felt rushed to me in some moments, and I know some of you might think this movie deserves to be like 30 minutes long, barely deserves to be a movie at all, and it's already 2 hours and 20. It's not a short movie, but there was a longer movie in here, and the pacing and the editing just didn't work, and I think it needed 30 minutes to flesh out the Lost Boys, to create stronger connections between these characters, and make the weight of everything feel impactful, and maybe go back and edit some of the other things to be a little bit more smooth. But that was kind of like the biggest thing out of that. The biggest thing was the timing of everything. So 30 minutes to flesh it out, add more tension and energy between everyone. So sure, the movie would have been longer, but it would have greatly helped. Those are my main issues. Like everything else, just I thought this movie was going to be terrible based on the feedback I heard, because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and putting it on.
You didn't think it was going to
No,
be terrible.
okay, I didn't know. I didn't think it was going to be terrible. I thought my childhood innocence was going to be ruined by the reviews I heard. I was like, oh man, I'm going to watch this and it's not going to hit the same, And I got everything set up. I got the lights on. I had like these Halloween lights up. I got the lights dimmed. The second the music hit, I felt like I was transported into like a child again. You ever watch Ratatouille where Egon, I think his name was, is eating the ratatouille, and like all of a sudden he's
Egon is Ghostbusters.
sorry, not Egon. You know what I'm talking about, the critic from Ratatouille.
Yeah.
He eats the ratatouille food, and then all of a sudden he has that shoo and sucks back into his childhood.
Yep.
That's how I felt when the music hit
I'm
in
pretty
this
sure
movie.
his name was literally Ego.
Ego. Anton Ego. I combined the two.
Close enough.
Yeah, so it brought me back, and as it was playing, I just felt that innocence returning. It was really weird. I was kind of like, I had my legs up in the couch. I was excited. Certain things...
Put your diaper on.
Yeah, I mean, I wet my pants a couple times, but that was the alcohol. And
Something you did all the time when you were a kid.
like, my dad wasn't perfect, okay? No, but in all seriousness, I thought it was going to be way worse than it was. And people who said that the writing was bad, people who said that the pacing was wrong, it wasn't that bad. It was actually a very good movie. And I found a lot of reviews of people online who had similar views to me, where they actually thought this was a classic and that people regarded it as a classic, and they were confused when they found out people hated it. That's how I felt when I heard that. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a timeless movie, a classic, a Spielberg classic. Some people might think this is his worst. I think it's not one of his best, obviously. He has Jaws and other things. It hit differently for me. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I love this movie so much.
In conclusion,
an 8 out of 10 seems fair but if I could give it the nostalgia factor, it'd be a 10. Like, it hits differently. So I love this movie, and it's an 8. Next.
All right.
AJ with a 6.5.
Nice.
so I feel that seeing this as a kid and seeing this as an adult brings quite different perspectives to this movie. You know, like David said, I always assumed this was a classic, a well-regarded movie, until you look it up and it apparently isn't. So I was somewhat baffled by that, but you know, I really feel that this actually is not a kid's movie. I mean, there's quite a bit of language and stuff. I mean, not that it's not available to kids to view, but the whole twist of the Peter Pan story from a kind of modern adult perspective, I feel like the message is more important for an adult.
It's very much speaking
honestly,
to adults. You're right.
Yeah, and especially, you know, I mean, I still keep going back to the biggest takeaway that I, you know, got from this latest viewing that I completely missed as a kid was just how Peter blew up at his kids early on when he's trying to do that phone call. I mean, that was central to the story and his character development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not about reclaiming childhood. That's the journey to get there. It's about him learning to care and love his children as a parent, as a caretaker.
Right.
And that's why the clash of the villain Hook is the tension is him also becoming that false father figure for Jack. And Maggie's there as well. But, you know, we kind of get sidetracked a little bit by certain things. And things could have been tightened up. I feel like even in the beginning where they show his corporate life, how he's kind of, you know, jovial there and cracking jokes and stuff, that was unnecessary, especially for the theme of this.
Right.
So I feel like if they tighten some of those aspects up, and with the differing opinion to what Reese brought up earlier, I feel like the stagnant aspect of Neverland here is thematically important, that they should have emphasized more and possibly, you know, gone more of the musical route to highlight some of those things. And I feel like maybe John Williams, I don't know, you know, they want to defer to him with the, you know, big broad sweeping things, but, you know, if you have a couple numbers of songs that really speak to the heart and to his personal growth, instead of just kind of having fun as a kid all the time, that would be more of an important message in my opinion. So it still holds up well. And we didn't even talk about this in the story portion too much, but the big iconic scene with the collapse of the clock tower on Hook. It was interesting because I always remember that scene as like a huge, tall clock tower, and then seeing it as an adult is like, that's kind of small in terms of scale.
Right.
So it's really interesting viewing this movie as a, you know, in a shifted perspective. But but that's not to say that it doesn't have value. And in fact, I feel like, the cinematography, I think, was Dean Cundy, who's done quite a few other things that all hold that nostalgic value. So they definitely captured something there that kind of speaks to people on a multi-generational front.
Right.
I just wish they polished it better so that it would really kind of stand the test of time instead of, kind of trusting to the Robin Williams factor, the, Spielberg factor, the John Williams factor kind of thing. So that's why I feel like it's a solid movie at a 6.5. Definitely had some flaws they could have polished up. So, yeah.
Nice.
All right. Next up is Reese with a 9.5.
Yeah, just the whole time, like
Got him.
It's all
Got it.
it's all facade. Oh, you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, listeners. Reese gave this movie a 5.5.
Yeah, I don't mean to be the villain of this episode, but I definitely am.
Well, you're not the villain. You're the protagonist before he's redeemed.
All right.
Before he discovers Neverland.
So I'll just remind everyone that the rubric is 1 to 10, not 5 to 10. So
Yeah.
5.5 is still above.
Like that
middle.
means I gave it more points than I didn't. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That's true.
Hey,
it's
actually,
passing.
in Rotten Tomatoes land, this would be, perfect.
Yeah.
Actually, it wouldn't. I think you need a 6 and above.
And I think I said this already. Going into this movie, I had seen this twice before the reviewing for this episode. So I'd seen it once, maybe around like in my teen years, still too late to really get on the nostalgia train for it. And then I saw it again last year with my wife. And then I watched it again for this episode. The last time I saw it, I was like, that was not good. Like, I just did not like it one bit.
So weird.
And so going into this, I was expecting to feel the exact same way. The first 30 minutes of this movie, though, I was transported like I was not a year ago. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Like, because maybe I'm just in my head, this new, like, Robin Williams headspace where I just, like, am really admiring him.
Yeah.
But all the stuff in the beginning I thought was done so expertly. Like, just the way, all the table setting for this story is so good. Like, it's really setting up for this, this inner discovery of Peter Pan, like, him really coming into his own. And I mentioned this earlier, but when he does eventually get to Neverland, I don't feel transported like I think they want me to feel. And that's just my personal feeling of it. Like it's, and I think I read that Steven Spielberg felt almost the same way making this movie, where he was like, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling to create Neverland. And I could tell he was struggling because it's just kind of a hodgepodge when you get to Neverland. You have all these sequences that are just like kind of shotgun blasted at the wall, hoping that some of them stick. And yes, some of them do, but a lot of them just kind of like fall off the wall and splatter onto the ground. And the whole middle portion of this movie to me is just an absolute hodgepodge of hit or miss crap. Like, some of it is really good. There's some really standout moments for me, particularly when Peter Pan is finally coming into his own. But all of these all the muddled stuff with the Lost Boys, where it's just, hey, look at all the fun we're having. Look at all the, we're just running around here, we're running around there. And then all the various subplots that are thrown in. As much as I like the kind of Hook taking Jack under his wing, it's just another subplot. So is the stuff with Tinkerbell being a romantic interest. There's all these elements thrown into this movie that and like just they press the on button on the blender and they just blend them all together. That it just lacks cohesion for me.
Does it not seem like an editing issue? Maybe
it may be. It could be. And I don't know if the solution is to make it longer or shorter, but as I was watching it, I was just like, this needs to be shorter. This needs to be more focused. Because the movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes. And for me, at about an hour and a half, it was starting to lose me. I was feeling that itch to, like, pull my phone out of my pocket and like see what was up on like go through my various social medias and all that.
OnlyFans.
My OnlyFans, yeah. See if people are checking me out doing my my
Tinkerbell cosplay.
My Tinkerbell cosplay, yes. But it comes back around in the end. I actually like how the movie closes out. It manages to be cohesive in its tone and in its themes. So it does at least end strong for me. So for me, the bookends are good. The middle part is very rough. And I just think it loses sight of that emotional through line that I wanted to be very consistent throughout the entire runtime. Because Robin Williams is so good. Like, he really knows what he's doing here. And I feel like it's more a director issue. And Spielberg it is so hard to fault him because he's such an amazing director. I do think this is one of his few like fumbles, though.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of loses sight of that main through line. At
Which
least
even for him, where if he stumbles, somehow it still comes together.
Yeah, like it's still a Spielberg movie. It's a certain level of quality, but it is definitely one of the weaker Spielbergs. I will definitely not say the worst.
Yes,
but
I'll take it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just it's a flawed piece that I do admire from afar for certain things that it does. But yeah, it ultimately I'm kind of. Yeah, I have very mixed feelings on this movie, but I understand why people like it too, and I'm not gonna besmirch people for loving.
You're taking the high road here.
Yeah, for loving Hook. So yeah, love Hook all you want. Doesn't bother me. It just didn't quite strike the same chord for me. So I'll keep my 5.5.
It's still better than Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, right?
Yes, that movie you gave a 7 to.
Yes, the movie I gave.
I like how you you willingly
did it on the last
that
one,
was
too.
like a sacrificial gesture. Like
That was me meeting you in the middle.
Well, he was just missing the Yetis from this one.
Honestly, if they had Yetis in this instead of mermaids, make out with them, a little bit of football.
A Yeti
with
makeout.
the Lost Boys. All right, and last but not least, Irina with an appropriate 7.5.
Thanks for throwing in your opinion.
Irina with a
ahead of time.
7.5.
Yeah, I did not dislike this movie going into it because I kind of expected to find it had really, really aged. But this movie, even though I didn't grow up watching it a lot, is injected with nostalgia. Somehow he was able to do that, and I think it's a lot of the tones of the film, as well as like just kind of the set design, and there's almost kind of this filter on everything where you're kind of looking at it through this sort of haze or this glowing, kind of warm toned color, I guess. I can't come up with the proper words or verbiage for it, but I feel the nostalgia without actually having nostalgia for this film, which is a very bizarre feeling for me. I'm going to bring up my main problems with the film, which is one of them, we didn't even bring this up, but this beginning sequence where you're kind of showing Peter's life outside of Neverland now that he's a businessman. And there's this weird kind of background music that doesn't really fit what's happening at all.
I was like, this is one of the best Williams scores, but the beginning of it is like elevator music.
It didn't even sound like Williams. It was almost like I was describing to David that
Like
it's
stock
kind of
music.
like they put in stock music and were planning on going back to change it, but never did. So it was just very bizarre.
It sounds like
bad.
it should be in the room with Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, exactly.
But after that, I think this isn't Williams' best score ever, but it's enough to carry the mood, I think.
I think
throughout
it's
the
very
rest of the
good.
film.
I think it's very good.
I like it. It's not his most iconic piece though.
Yeah.
I think the only part I remember specifically is Hook's theme, specifically when he's on the ship. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I think the touch, the heartfelt moments when he's like realizing who he is.
Yeah.
Like when that score kicks in.
No,
oh,
it's
man,
like
so
I
good.
said, it's effective, but it's not. I'm never going to actually remember it.
Yeah.
It's like a precursor to Harry Potter. Like
Right.
it seems like he was dabbling in something, and then Harry
Magic.
Potter, it's the magic, honestly, and then he somehow kind of found that through this.
Right. So that beginning sequence, I think there's just a little bit of an awkward start. Afterwards, it kind of gets into its rhythm. And second is Tinkerbell. I don't know what is up with that character, but it felt like she was in a completely different movie from everyone else. Every time she was on screen. Not to mention her whole subplot was not consistent at all with the theme. Let's see. The other one, Rufio, I don't really understand his death still, and the fact that it was glossed over. I wanted to mention something that you brought up, Reese, which was the fact that this whole staged atmosphere is a bit frustrating because you want a little more energy, you want some more excitement. And that got me thinking, like, the only other element it had missing that it started to capitalize on with the food fight was it would have been cool if this all started with him kind of seeing everyone as just play acting, you know, where he's like, what is wrong with you people? You guys are crazy. Like, what are you doing? And after that play fight, then you start to see
become
like
real.
some more magic. Like beforehand, it just kind of felt like people playing with sticks
Oh, that's
and
an
sword
interesting
fighting.
idea. Yeah.
But then afterwards, it starts to actually morph into what everyone else is imagining.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. They had that, bangarang moment.
Right.
And then from then on it kind of still peters back down to that level again
Right.
after that.
So there was that
Peter.
sense of wonder. Yeah. There's that sense of wonder that they do get in that moment, but then it just doesn't really elevate past that. So I do pick up on that. Otherwise, I love the mood of this film. It's not my favorite Spielberg, and I think that's part of why it got so many negative reviews, is because you have this stellar cast. You've got Julia Roberts, who isn't even really utilized properly, and then Robin Williams. Steven Spielberg is frontlining this, and you got John Williams, who's a classic composer. But then you're kind of
Gwyneth
left with a
Paltrow.
movie. Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow. She's only in there for a couple scenes. And
George Lucas.
Maggie Smith, like, she's well known as
Phil
well.
Collins.
Yep, the Phil Collins. It's so random. You can tell there's money in this
Professor
project.
McGonagall.
Yep. There's money in this project, but I can see how audiences would feel a little underwhelmed by the product.
I don't think audiences were. I think the critics were.
Well, yeah, critics. That too. But
Yeah, I mean, and this was coming off Last Crusade as well. Like, this movie's sandwiched between
yeah.
in terms of Spielberg, you had Last Crusade before it, and Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List after it. So
Yeah.
that's like a one of those sandwiches that is, you have like two steaks serving as the bread, and then Cheetos in the middle.
I'd eat it. That's a Lost
know
Boy
you
meal
would.
right
Are
there.
you saying that's a bad thing?
No, I like Cheetos, but they're not steak.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that probably had a factor in your enjoyment of it. And I think that's why I enjoy it now after the fact. But I think it's a pretty faithful rendition of like how Peter Pan might have been after all the events we know and are familiar with, because it does at its heart try to maintain Peter Pan as a cautionary tale, where the original is that cautionary tale of, the sadness and the tragedy of not wanting to grow up,
Yeah.
and how everything kind of moves on without you. But then this one is bookending that by saying what happens when you don't hold on to that childlike wonder. Like, you just kind of become something on the opposing end that doesn't ever get to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So I think that the message is very important, and that's why I think this movie is still very important. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at a 7.5.
Fair. AJ, you want to crunch those numbers for us?
Yeah, so let's have a little intro question here. Quick poll, Mrs. Doubtfire or Hook? Which do you prefer?
Wait, what was the first one?
Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, wait.
That's very tough because I scored both of them the exact same.
I'd go with Hook.
I'd go with Hook, too,
Hook.
I think. I'd go with Hook.
Yeah, Hook.
So the reason I ask is because we have a group average of 7, which we also gave Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Just above that, we have Wrath of the Titans at a 7.1. And Blade 2 also had a 7.0. And then Clash of the Titans 2010 had a 6.9.
All right, so right in that range, I feel like that's fair, right?
Fair-ish. There are some movies I think we could retroactively go back and tweak, but overall, I'm very happy.
And it's only going to get harder the more movies we review.
I
don't know,
do
I'd say
agree
for-
that it deserves the same placement as Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah,
like, I'm like
that's
right
fair.
that-
I'd say-
that's about.
Of that listing of movies, they all fit that range.
Wrath of the Titans is one that I was like,
Wrath of the Titans, I think, is actually good.
It's a fun movie.
It is.
I'll say it's
It
a
is.
fun movie. All right, let's move on to critics.
Did they pan it?
Yes. Good. Nice. On Rotten Tomatoes, get ready for it, guys.
you have to get both scores.
I am. When do I not?
I'm just saying, you make it sound like it's gonna be real bad.
No, I was gonna say brace yourselves because I think it's kind of
Brace
it's scary how low this
yourselves.
score is.
It is.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
29% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an audience score of 76%. Like, look,
That's a massive difference.
here's the thing. I didn't love this movie, but I think that's an injustice.
Yeah.
Having it being that low. I will.
I
That
think
said, look at Clash and Wrath scores. They're
yeah,
in the
those are way
same
down there, too.
ballpark.
I said the same thing about The Mummy with the Tom Cruise movie. Get like a 16%, which is insane. I think I kind of wrote this down a little bit and said a little bit about it. I truly believe every now and again there's a movie where critics are like, we are being too good towards movies. We need a movie to sacrifice, even
Yeah.
though it's not
It's like a
that
blood
bad.
sacrifice.
Yeah. They're like, you know what? Hook wasn't perfect, and there were some issues with it. How about we all agree to rake it over the coals?
Here's the thing.
Witch.
Burn it.
Here's what's annoying. A movie can be not good, but also not bad.
Yes.
Like, and for, I think, many people, I think that's what this is. I think this is on the good side. But I think the general audience is of the thought that it's not a good movie. However, you can't say it's a bad movie.
Think about it this way: 62% of critics said, "No, don't go see it."
Yeah,
61.
It's
61, sorry.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, Metacritic a little better with a 52 out of 100, audience score of 7.2 out of 10. And on IMDb, it comes down a little more for the audiences at a 6.8 out of 10. So mixed overall, I would say, if you're factoring in both critics and audiences.
Very different scores. It's crazy.
Very opposing ends. I won't say the audiences are like resounding that this is like amazing, but they're at least for sure on the positive end with Hook. So that's I would say that's encouraging, slightly, even though critics definitely kind of panned it, to use AJ's phrase. Box office. Now this is something that surprised me because in my mind, no, I'm not going to reveal anything. This movie released on December 13th, 1991. Also playing at the time was The Last Boy Scout, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, The Addams Family, and Beauty and the Beast.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do y'all think this movie did worldwide? I'm going to start with you, David.
Budget, please.
Budget, $70 million.
So, I did hear that it did well opening weekend. So, I'm going to say...
Why are you revealing that to other people?
So they can have a justified opinion like me. I don't want to cheat.
That's not cheating. That's just you hearing
research.
something.
I'm going to say it did triple. So was that... I'm going to go 200. Is that
Jerk.
triple? 250. How about that? Boom. You
Well,
can have your
200.
No,
It
you
would
can
be-
go whatever you want.
All right, 250. I think I'm going to aim on the high side because I give this movie a high score. 250.
All right, 250. Noah,
200.
200. AJ,
Jerk. I'll split the middle. 225.
Irina.
Let's do 245.
Ooh. David, you're the winner.
Let's
Look
go.
Yeah, the movie did $301 million.
Wow.
You know what's
What
weird?
was
I
this?
almost
Didn't I say 300?
almost went
This was
300.
No,
this
you
was
did not.
91.
I know, I didn't. I was just joking.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Which I think 91, I could be mistaken, but that's probably like if you account for inflation, probably double today.
Dang.
Roughly.
Wow.
Roughly. I could be completely wrong. But
That also means double the budget, too.
yes.
so-
It'd probably be like a 140 budget and 600 million worldwide.
Not bad.
That's actually huge. Like the thing is, this movie wasn't like logged as like, oh, a big blockbuster hit, but it's an original property more or less. Like, it's not a sequel to anything. It's a new take on Peter Pan. That's not something that you go talk to your boys or your girls and you're like, hey guys, let's go see Hook. You know,
I like how your girls also say, hey guys, let's go see Hook.
well, guys
They would.
can be for both.
I feel like
No,
it would
I know, it's just
more
the way you
be
said it.
like parents going, hey, Robin Williams,
Yeah.
this is a Steven Spielberg film.
And it's
it's
probably-
about Peter Pan. Let's go watch it.
Yeah, and it is December, so it's a good family release where you're just like, okay, get the family together, let's go see a movie. You go see Hook. It did pretty well. It's not, as I said, it didn't blow the doors off the window or the theater door.
Did you say blow the doors
Yeah,
off
I
the
said
windows?
that. I said that.
Blow
I
the
said
man
that.
down.
That
Yeah.
would be an impressive feat.
But it did well. It certainly wasn't like, you know, a bomb in any sense of the word. I think I read somewhere that it profited the Sony like 50 million or so. So it was technically deemed a quote unquote disappointment, but like I think for some reason with Spielberg's name attached, they were expecting just absolute gangbusters.
That was pretty high though.
Bang-a-ring.
70 whatever to 300.
bang-a-ring.
That's a pretty good return.
Yeah, but they made a little money on it. I think maybe it was the combination of like poor critic reviews and just not making an insane amount of money that it was deemed slightly disappointing. But the movie made money, and audiences, you know, I think liked it for the most part.
So we alluded to some production drama with Julia Roberts. Was that known at the time?
I don't know if that was known at the time. I think there were some like tabloids about her. I think she was engaged to Kiefer Sutherland at the time, and he like slept with a stripper or something, and then
He
she
cheated on her. Yeah.
him as well. And then there was just all this kind of outside drama that wasn't like she had to leave the set at a couple points. So I do think Steven Spielberg was like, I'm never working with Julia Roberts again, because it was just like this kind of distraction that hindered certain aspects of the shoot. But ultimately, I don't think it was actually that huge of a factor. Like, I don't think it held them back all that much. It was just like it was like tabloid fodder. But yeah, I think more of the production trouble was actually revolving around just Steven Spielberg not being able to corral all these children to act the way that he wanted to. And there was even like, he made some comment about like, I don't know if I want to have another kid after like working with all these children and just like the absolute chaos on the production of this movie. But yeah. So franchise talk. This movie obviously was sort of successful, but I don't think it was ever going to be enough for them to greenlight any sort of sequel. And you know what? I'm glad, because if some sort of sequel had been greenlit to this, would that mean that Steven Spielberg would not have made Jurassic Park or Schindler's List, two of his all-time, greats. So yeah, I am glad this movie did not spawn any sort of sequel anytime after this. But Dante Bosco, as recently as 2017, started a Kickstarter to asking for something like $30,000 to do a
Short film.
a Rufio short film prequel to this film. So the Kickstarter was in fact funded. They almost doubled the asking price for whatever that was. And there is in fact a 20-minute video of the Bangarang prequel film to Hook for your viewing pleasure. David, do you want to read the Kickstarter update there?
Yeah. So after a successful Kickstarter campaign from earlier in the year in 2017, actor-producer Dante Bosco has unveiled his new Hook prequel short film entitled Bangarang, named after his Hook character Rufio's signature catchphrase. This 17-minute short film shows what happened to this young boy before he became the leader of the Lost Boys, when he was just an orphan like Peter Pan himself. So the official description of the 17-minute short film goes as followed. This is the story about Rufio before the Mohawk, before Neverland, before he was the Pan. Rufus is a 13-year-old kid who is destined to be more than he is. After his mother is forced to put him into a foster home, he and his ragtag group of best friends, a Jamaican boy named Julani, and a bright-eyed Latina force of nature named Ella, find a way for Rufus to escape his ill fate, find his happy thought, and fulfill his destiny. The story has been reverse engineered from what was set up in Hook. We answer all the questions you've ever wondered. How and why is Rufio the leader of the Lost Boys? And where does Bangarang come from? And of course, how he got the Mohawk.
Yeah. Obviously, he seems like he was a huge fan of, portraying that character and wanted to see that continue.
I think that's what started his career.
And it kind of worked out for him, it looks like.
It looks like it.
So that's cool. That said, I don't want to see any sequels to this ever, and I'm good with it just laying where it is.
I think the short film's prequel is a nice sort of touch without having to really fulfill like a sequel.
I'm curious. I'll have to watch it. I want to see what the quality level is. What do you do with 68?
It looks high quality based on what I saw.
Cool. Maybe
we should watch that.
Yeah, maybe that could be like a Patreon. Hey, we'll watch this movie and talk about it. Who knows? All right. With that wrapped up, next week we're talking about The Fisher King, a movie that AJ has sung high praises for, and that we all have heard that is... I don't think any of us have seen it. I know we'll get into that next episode, but I have definitely not seen it. I've heard of it, but I've only heard good things, so I'm definitely excited to dive into this movie.
All right.
But yeah, next week, The Fisher King. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
I've just had an apostrophe.